Yeah, I think what they do on social media is they have they've got to start it like this. Come in, sit down, and say hi. Hello everyone, and welcome for tuning in. Nick Jones here, dog behaviourist, dog expert, witness, general all-round good guy. Now I'm bringing you some thoughts today because here we are at the beginning of week 2 of the lockdown due to coronavirus. So I hope you're all coping well with that, not just with the practical implications of business and income, but also, of course, looking at life with your dog or dogs. And that's really it's really my area where I can help you and would like to help you. Just as, you know, because really I don't want to make future videos and to work with you guys in a way that seems as though everything is completely normal, because of course it isn't. And this is a very interesting time because it's affecting everybody. Some to a serious degree and others to a point where it's a huge inconvenience. And I realise that there is a big scale there, a big sliding scale. So wherever you are on that scale, I hope you are okay. I have been thinking a great deal of my family and my friends. And so I hope you're coping in whatever way this situation is affecting you. I think on a personal level, I spent most of last week really just trying to come to terms with the impact that's likely to have on me and the way I work. For nearly 20 years now, I've been in a situation of building my own business, and to effectively feel like I was closing it down last week was a very difficult pill to swallow. But I know that's not a unique situation, and many other people will be in very, very similar situations. So yeah, it was a bit depressing, to put it mildly, to either email or phone customers and to postpone visits. It's what I have come to do without. It's become my complete focus of my life for that near 20-year period. If I wasn't actually consulting with people, I'd be here probably in the office taking inquiries or emailing responses, writing reports. You know, apart from the accounting side of it, really I've dealt with all elements of the business, and I love that and I enjoy it. Ironically, one thing I wasn't able to do when I was busy consulting was to stop and to create content. And I've always had high aspirations to write lots of blog posts and to give information when I can, but of course the thing that really prevented that was time, and to a lesser extent energy. You know, having energy to do these things is really important, and these are finite resources that we can't just it just means that we can't keep going forever. Let me just turn the exposure down on that a tad. There we go. So now of course I have lots of time, and because I'm not driving around so much, which was a big energy drain and time drain, it wouldn't be unusual for me to do 2 or 3 hours to see a customer. That's just one way. So now, as I say, I have time and I have more energy, and over the weekend I've been thinking about how I can best help and serve you out there at home with your dogs. Well, of course, in some respects, there are 101 plus different subjects that I could easily go through with you, and probably will, as some of my initial thoughts begin to pan out. And you know, we can cover some of the more, how do you call it, mundane areas of dog behaviour, but actually I think us, or rather we and our dogs, are going through a quite unique time and unique experience. And so you are going to be most likely with your dog virtually 24/7. And that in itself, I'm sure for some people will create some challenges, as well as actually having some lovely things, because we have dogs so we can enjoy them, and spending more time together is a lovely thing to do. And again, coming back to that idea of the sliding scale of how much you may or may not be affected at the moment, well, for some people that may mean that if you have a home with some grounds or some spaces where you can freely exercise your dog without meeting other people due to social distancing, then, well, fabulous, that makes life a bit easier. But then equally, there are going to be people feeling somewhat stuck at home with their dogs and not being able to exercise the dog in the way they may be used to, and that this is also a challenge for the dogs themselves. So in that respect, I thought, well, I've got time, I've got energy, I've got some ideas, and so all we really need to do is to bring the three together, and for me to then think of the best way in which I can bring that all together, and to offer you some material and ideas where you can go off and try things for yourself. So in light of that, just before I get ahead of myself, I had some ideas which, they're up on the main screen on my main computer, because otherwise they're on the phone, which I'm using. So excuse me for looking at this screen here, but in no particular order, these are some of the areas that I'd like to address. I'll go through those quickly. This is just a little bit of brainstorming I've been doing on my phone over the weekend. And then I'd like to talk a bit about the various ways in which I think I will be best in conveying those to you, the viewer. So, as I say, things like... This is a particular concern to me, because people at home with puppies, certainly a dog under 6 months of age, give or take, I'm a little bit concerned about socialisation, because the main thing we can do for a puppy is to proof it so that it can cope with life. Okay, and the way we would... Well, there are lots of ways in which we can do that, but one of the main ways is getting out of the home so that our dogs are meeting other dogs, other people in various locations. So that's a good way to look at how we should be socialising a puppy. But of course, that has to a very large extent, certainly as I speak now on the 30th of March 2020, we can still go out with our dogs, but firstly, we don't know if that's going to be, the control measures upon us are going to be tightened, and what impact that would have. But I think the best thing we can do is just to deal with the situation as we have it at the moment. I guess one of the better scenarios is that if the situation in the UK here does continue to stabilise, then hopefully there will not be further more restrictive measures put in place. And I, for a number of reasons, largely of course for the good of all of us, that hope that will be the case, and that we won't see any further restrictions placed upon us. But we should just have to see. So the socialisation for puppies, I'd like to discuss that, and that is probably going to be for a select group, I guess, of people with young dogs at that age, below 6 months or even up to a year. Okay. Looking ahead at the subject of returning back to work. So this is assuming that you're now at home and you were previously tending a give or take 9 to 5 job, and that your dog was used to being left alone. And that, as a situation, of course, when we all do go back to work, is going to change for your dog quite dramatically. And so just having a little eye on the future, I think, is very worthwhile. What else have we got? Games, of course, to keep your dog busy. Now, I'd like to place a bit of emphasis upon that, because I think it can be fun, it can be educational and stimulating and tiring for your dog, and I dare say for you as you're doing this. Now, the book that I shall be using to get that there, to go through and to use as a cue will be this game. Now, it's called Brain Games by Claire Arrowsmith. Thank you, Claire, for this lovely book. There is also a puppy version of this online, but I will put links to this book in the description on Amazon. And if you would like to go ahead and get yourself a copy of this book, we can work through certain elements together. So I'd like to propose that we use this as a prompt, if you like. Now, in my profession, or let's say in the profession of working with dogs, people have specialities, and I'll be the first to confess that doing tricks with dogs is not my day-to-day speciality. But I do love it, and I love the concept of interacting with and engaging with dogs and keeping them busy. So this is the book I shall be referring to. I want to be completely transparent with you from the outset. That's really why I said, you know, this is not necessarily my forte, but hey, we can go through this together. And it struck me that in Ruby, who I kind of would like to be here, but she's downstairs, I think. She is the perfect little dog for, you know, doing little tricks and brain games. Pip will also have a go, I should think, but she is 14, mostly deaf, if not completely deaf, and a little bit blind, I think, on some of her peripheral vision. So she may not be the best dog to demonstrate with, but I would like to include her because, of course, we do all have, well, some of us have older dogs, and I think that might offer a bit of balance. So I will be using my own dogs. They are not pre-trained to all the things in this book. A lot of the exercises in here, they will not be familiar with. So in that sense, we can go through it together, which I rather like the idea of. Back to my list. The subject of exercising with our dogs is also something I think we can look at and discuss. So, for example, you know, might you like the idea of doing some power walking with your dog, or jogging, or even cycling, having your dog running alongside you as you cycle, before any of you make wisecracks about teaching your dog to ride a bike. I know, because I've had the bad jokes in my head myself. So these are all fun things that we can do, and of course different ways of exercising our dogs in public spaces. This isn't on my list, but I at one stage would like to discuss the subject of, well, it's a changing situation about the guidelines offered to us for exercising our dog. I see there's a lot of debate and confusion at the moment about whether we should be using cars to take our dogs to certain locations. So I'm, you know, part of me is keen to discuss these right here and now, but I'm just wanting to make this video as an introduction to some of those ideas that we could discuss together. I picked up the subject that there is a surge in dogs being rehomed at the moment. Either people, I'm guessing, it's not something I've really looked into in great detail, but I'm guessing that this change in circumstances is just being the straw that's breaking the camel's back for some owners. So there are quite a few dogs going into rehoming, and that's something I'd like to discuss, in the sense that one simple idea is that if you're able to, offering to foster a dog in the short term could take a lot of pressure off the homing centres. Okay, what else do we have? So that's it. I'll draw a line under some of the ideas and some of the content that we could be looking at together. In terms of social media and how I'm going to place this content out, well, let me explain. I used to use Twitter a lot actually not long after it started, but I actually have quite a few followers on Twitter, but admittedly I've not tended to it at all, and so I think my presence on Twitter is not really the place I want to be at this point in time. I tend now to use Facebook and Instagram. I like Instagram because I like the imagery element of it. I've always enjoyed photography. I personally like taking a picture with my phone and making a few tweaks and a few hashtags, and it's fun. For me, it's a bit of light-hearted fun. But I think I should recognise that I could be doing more on Instagram, and that may well be the case. On my main Facebook page and YouTube, nearly forgot YouTube, I think that's really where we can put some videos. So as I talk to you now, I'm actually filming this simultaneously, one on my phone on portrait mode, and on the over here we have the RX100 filming in landscape, which is much better quality. So I wanted to film in 4K, but my upload speed here at home is a bit abysmal, 3 megabits a second or something, 5 on 4G if I'm lucky. So I shall keep everything in 1080 on the landscape camera. So doobie-doo, yeah, YouTube. So stuff I'm filming in landscape like this now, I will put on Facebook and YouTube and probably upload them overnight. It's been a few months since I've been in the sort of rhythm of filming and uploading. So hopefully as I go through a few days of this, I will break the ice and get into a little pattern. I think also I've got a 20-minute video limit on this main camera on the Sony, so I may have to stop and restart it in a second. So what I was thinking is something, and I also have, sorry, but you can tell, can't you, that I'm still forming this idea, so bear with me, and as the week progresses, I will get into as I say, a little rhythm about what I'm going to do and where and how and everything else. But I did start a podcast around Christmas time, and I put a couple of those up and I enjoyed that, but of course again I quickly found that the work and you know, energy and everything else just tapered off, and I thought, oh, it's just one more thing I can't really cope with at this point in time. So I would really like to give some fresh energy into the podcast and mirror that over into some blog posts. I would really like to do ideally something every day, and probably the best way I can do that is to split my efforts between alternate filming days for video creation, where we can look at me doing bits with Ruby in here and discussing practical issues with our dogs, and then on the other day podcasting. So podcast one day, video the next, and probably have a little turnover. I don't want to commit myself or make promises in terms of what you can expect to me, because this is still an idea. It's a reasonably well formed one, but I'm keeping my options open. I hope you don't mind. And then end of the week, what we could do is a single Facebook Live at the end of each week. And I think that would be a good way to discuss all the material that's come through in that week, and also an opportunity to throw open the the internet channels and for us to have a live chat. I did a Facebook Live on my page at the beginning of last week, I think it was, or middle of last week, and I fell foul really of, well, I discovered that so many people are using the internet that, you know, my mobile signal was just not really up to it. So the first few minutes of that video were very blocky, for which I apologise. I very much look forward to the day that we can all upload and stream and watch in 4K, but until then, and I guess that's a 5G idea, but until then, you know, it would just be nice if the existing technology worked as well as it could. So I will always try to give you the best video and audio I can, but of course when doing Facebook Lives that can be a bit reduced. I'm actually propping my phone up in the window here in the office, and if I do that and keep it stable, the 4G is pretty good. So I think I will try another Facebook Live, but next time it will be on 4G and not Wi-Fi. Another problem I had on Facebook Live, I just need to do a bit more research on this, is that I could not see the comments on my screen, which drove me insane. I am reasonably comfortable talking at some length on my own, but I very much appreciate a much more conversational style, and that somebody asks me a question or gives me a bit of further information. You know, I really like having a conversation. Talking as it feels to myself for longer periods of time is a bit more distracting. But hey, the more you do something, the better you get at it, and I have a sneaky feeling I might be doing a fair bit of this in the future. What's in it for me? What's in it for you? Actually, there isn't an awful deal in it for me, apart from keeping myself focused, giving the opportunity to help you, and helping in my job, as corny as it may sound, but that is actually one of the main motivators in my life anyway, helping other people. And if I can do that in a way that I feel I can help, which is your mental and physical well-being of both you and your dog, then that is a genuine pleasure to offer that to you. So that's really my motivation over the coming weeks. Naturally, once we are able to move around and to physically get close to each other and to work with each other, then I want to have my business in a fit and ready state so that I can pick, you know, that up relatively quickly. Of course the benefit to you is that, well, this is your opportunity to ask me questions that you're struggling with, and also to sort of come with me on this little journey as we go through the coming weeks and months. Okay, so I think that's everything I wanted to say. It's just a slightly off-the-cuff video for now. Thank you for watching. Watch this space. I will keep you updated as you go. If incidentally you have any suggestions or ideas, I will happily take those on board and have a look at them. Naturally, it has to appeal to me as well, because being the content provider, you need to feel as though you've got that degree of interest and passion on the subject. So between the two of us, me and you collectively, I'm sure we can work this out. If you would be so kind as to like and share this material, I would be very grateful. Okay, until next time, look after yourselves and take care.